everybody. It's Wednesday at 7 o'clock. That means it's time for another Wednesday weekly workshop where you get to ask Drew anything. And I'll tell you right now, we missed you last week when I was out of town. Hi, I'm Drew. I'm the owner here at 3D Wellness. I'm also a clinician with more than 17 years of clinical experience helping people heal safely and naturally. And every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, I go live on YouTube to answer the internet's questions. I couldn't do this alone, so I'm joined by the incomparable Two Boots Lori LeClaire.
Hey, let's get ready to ask Drew anything.
So send in those questions. We'll get you some answers. I missed you last week. I was having one of the all-time great vacations, and I missed you. All right, let's get Levi put down. If this is your first time joining us, first of all, we're really glad you're here. The way these go, every Wednesday at 7, we go live on YouTube so that everybody and their mother and their brother and their sister and their cousin and their neighbor can message us. You can chat it in, and the incomparable Two Boots will read off your question. I will use our dry erase board, which we lovingly refer to as Mr. Doodles, to get you some answers. I always start by going over what we've seen this week in the clinic while those questions roll in. So let's jump into that. Oh, yeah.
I know, I'm looking it up.
146.
146, there you go.
This is the 146th time we've done an Ask Drew Anything. I was actually showing some of the team members at Standard Process. I was on a phone call with the team that's out by Boise, Idaho and Spokane, Washington this morning. And what came up was they were asking me, hey, you do a bunch on social media. Can you tell us about that? And I was looking up the old Ask Drew Anythings. What I realized when we first started them, we didn't have enough YouTube subscribers to do YouTube Live.
Oh, yeah.
So we were only on Instagram Live.
That's true, yeah.
It is so far back when I think about that now, because we've had enough YouTube subscribers for YouTube Live for years now.
Right.
We're still working on getting more of those Instagram followers. We need 1,000 followers on Instagram in order to go back to doing Instagram Live. And I just figured out this week, one of the ways I'm going to motivate people, can't announce it yet. There's a few things I have to procure first. I think it's a pretty good idea. You think it's a pretty good idea?
It's amazing.
I mentioned it to Heidi yesterday. She thinks it's a pretty good idea too. So we're working on that.
Yeah.
So this week at 3D, first things first, insomnia. The inexplicable inability to sleep. And there's a couple of different ways that we support people who are dealing with insomnia. I really like to break it down. When we are talking about insomnia, is there stuff going on with your mind? Is there stuff going on with your body? Maybe it's both. So sometimes people are having the hamster on the wheel, as they say. The thoughts are just racing or spinning. They don't even have to go fast. They just won't stop. That's separate from, hey, my body feels physically uncomfortable. Something doesn't feel right with my body. Last but not least, you might have both. Your brain might be working on something and your body is dealing with discomfort. It's part of the reason I like to talk about that stuff, because we can address them individually or address both at the same time. Next one was retracing, and this is a really interesting phenomenon. This is fixing old issues. So I want to take a minute to talk about retracing, because on Monday we had two really sensitive, really extraordinary examples of retracing. Retracing is what happens when a body starts to get nourished up in an effective way. So it wants to go back and fix some old trauma. And the trauma can be mental or emotional. It can also be physical. So maybe it's that sprained ankle from 20 years ago that never really got back to how it was before it got sprained, but it's not bad enough that it stops you from doing some activity. Or it could be that mental or emotional trauma where you remember the red car that struck your car at that traffic collision, And every time you see a red car now, you have a little
Mm.
kind of flutter of discomfort that comes with that. Okay. Retracing is totally common and totally normal. It usually happens when we're really fixing old problems. The body goes, hey, I'm actually nourished enough now to go back and clean up that old mess that I barely put back together. I put it back together well enough to get through life, but I'm not actually at my peak potential. We had a couple of extraordinary retracing come up on Monday, but it comes up all the time. And I bring that up to you so everybody watching this, if you start to work on your health and your problem, your old problem starts to come back, it doesn't mean it's coming back forever. Your body might be retracing to go back and actually really fix that problem once and for all on every level to really fix it.
Yeah, it's important for people to understand that it's not a setback or a relapse.
Right.
It's actually progress as you're healing.
We try to bring it up to people before it happens.
Mm-hmm.
They say, I have a history of headaches and I got them to stop for a little while, but my head still doesn't feel right. I bring it up and I say, just so you know, it's very likely at some point during your program, those headaches are going to return temporarily while your body goes back to the scene of the crime and cleans all that up.
Mm-hmm.
If people know ahead of time, it's way less of a big deal.
Yeah.
On Monday, one of the persons that I was dealing with knew what retracing was, the other did not, and they were quite shook by it. So we try to bring it up so it's not so shaky. Omega-3s for reducing inflammation. We want to deflame your body. But this is a big deal. You must digest those omega-3s. In so many people, their liver and gallbladder, the organs predominantly responsible for the digestion of omega-3 fats, just are not in a place where you can reap the full benefit of your fish oil. So if you've started a fish oil, if you've started a flax oil, if you've started any kind of good fat, and you're not really seeing the benefits of it, I want you to reach out to us. Here's our email. There's our phone number. Drop a comment right now if you want. Because there are things we can do to make sure your body is actually digesting those omega-3s. Prostate health came up a couple of times this week. Yes, men have health challenges too. No, they probably won't bring them up. Yes, I'm good at talking to guys. So if there's a man in your life and you're worried about his health, let me have a shot here. Let me have a shot with him. Spouses, okay, y'all.
Mm.
Man, good spouse is invaluable. The same way an unsupportive spouse is incredibly detrimental. And this week I was working with a couple that came in, and one of the people in the relationship, I don't even want to say if it's the husband or the wife, because I'm really not trying to call anybody out. But one of the people in the relationship is in a really bad way, and the spouse is nowhere near supportive enough for what this ill person needs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're the spouse that doesn't feel like you can give your spouse what they need, or if your spouse is really ill and you don't know what to do about it, step back from it and find somebody to help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. Where we're going to mess people up, especially when we're talking about relationships, is when we say, I don't know what the answer is, but I'll figure it out eventually. Just wait around while I figure it out. We don't always have that time to wait around and hope that you find the answer, especially when somebody you go to church with who had a similar problem as you says, hey, I worked with Drew and it helped out a ton. Go see him. Give it a shot. So, a supportive spouse, invaluable. An unsupportive spouse, very detrimental. Had to witness that this week. It's really tough.
Mm.
If you have an ill spouse and you're not sure how to help them and you just want to talk about it, I'm going to point to my contact info again. Talking to me is free. I enjoy talking to people. Okay.
Mm.
But you have to talk with me. We have to talk through it. That was the other part of the spouse. There was like no talking. Oh, it's tough. That's tough. And then this is not my handwriting.
It's mine.
Two Boots wants to bring
I
something.
had to add that on at the last minute because I'm just so happy that I
It
had
says
this
hemorrhoids
yes,
external.
I had, 2 weeks ago, just an instantaneous flare-up of an old issue. Talk
Yeah.
about retracing.
Oh,
This was definitely something from, like, 15 plus years ago,
wow.
where, I had hemorrhoids and anal fissures. I mean, it was really uncomfortable
Yeah,
for a
that would
long
be.
time. I ended up having a hemorrhoidectomy even, and I haven't had an issue since, right?
Okay.
All of a sudden, boom, it happened
Just kind
because
of
I
turned
was
on.
going through something emotional, I think, that kind of triggered
Yeah.
whatever caused the hemorrhoid, I think, in the first place. But now I'm on my healing journey, and my body said, "Yeah, you're ready to do the rest. Let's heal the rest of whatever was causing that."
Right on.
And you put me on some Sonia route
Yeah.
right away. I did see an acupuncture just to get things flowing that way. But that thing was like pretty much gone within a week.
Beautiful.
I know. I was like so happy and so happy to share my success story.
Right on. First, thank you for sharing. And that's something we work on stuff that would usually embarrass people all the time. We talk about poop in here every day. We talk about sex in here almost every day. We talk about your bottom. We talk about genitals, breast tissue issues, all of these things, libido issues, performance issues. That stuff comes up with clients at least every week, if not every single day.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these natural ways to support the body so you don't have to deal with those things.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that I find most interesting about what you had going on,
Yeah.
you had the surgery, the
Yes.
hemorrhoidectomy, the removal of the hemorrhoid, and the problem came back despite the surgery.
Yep.
So we go about it different ways because just doing a surgery again, one of the definitions of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly, expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, sweet.
I'm glad you can sit comfortably again.
Yes. Me too. I leaned into the discomfort, knowing you nailed it right out of the gate when I told you about it. You said, I think this sounds like you're retracing, and that
Oh,
made it easier for me to lean into the discomfort, knowing this will pass. This isn't
yes.
like the last time. This is going to be short lived. Just hang in there.
This too shall pass. We're just going to work on it and then we're going to
Mhm.
resolve it and then we can move past it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like my job in a lot of ways for the first 6 to 12 weeks of a client's program with me is really just to be a cheerleader
Mhm.
because the body's been dysfunctional for potentially decades, if not years. And then while the body is kind of correcting its course,
Mhm.
takes time. My job is to be like, you got this. Here's what's going on. Here's how we're working on it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The questions rolling on the chat.
We don't have any rolling in here on YouTube.
Okay.
I know there's a couple on the
Yeah,
board.
we had emails coming.
Emails. Yep. Take
Okay.
your pick. I think there's 2 of them there.
Okay. So one is from Suzanne. 2 questions for me. Have I ever heard of Enteros gel? I believe it is a GI virus type of oral detox. I am not familiar with that product. I see Two Boots is looking at it.
I'm
No?
looking at something else, actually.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that product. I'm curious about it. And I'm curious about the line that says, I believe it is a GI, virus, type of oral detox. Not totally sure what you mean by that, Suzanne. So I'm going to follow up with you on that part. And then the second question was, Drew, what are your thoughts on someone who's active, eats fairly well, does intermittent fasting, and takes berberine and alpha lipoic acid, and their blood sugar is fine, but their A1C is high? That is a very interesting one. Let's look at this. Okay, so hemoglobin A1C is basically a 90-day average of blood sugar levels. And this says their blood sugar is fine. So we're looking at this on blood work. And on blood work, we can measure the glucose level. My range is a little different than most of the ranges that you see on standard blood work from a doctor. I really like the glucose level to be between 85 and 99. That's what I was taught in school. With my clients that hover in that range, what we find is that they have energy on demand because blood sugar is a source of fuel in the body, and it's not so high that it's beating up vascular tissue, which elevated blood sugars can do. It's also not so high that we're saying, hey, maybe your body isn't reining in these blood sugar levels with hormones like insulin. So if the A1C is too high, but the glucose is good, then what I'm expecting is the day and time that the blood work was drawn, the body had reined in the glucose levels. Either the person didn't overeat carbohydrates or they paired the carbohydrates with enough protein and fat that it didn't mess anything up. Ooh, might have a call-in question. Um, but the big picture overall, the body has not been doing a good job with maintaining a healthy glucose range because that A1C is that 90-day average. So even though they're doing things that help with blood sugar like the berberine and the alpha lipoic acid, we could still see that the A1C is high because in those 90 days that the A1C is measuring, the glucose was not in a good place. So that's what I suspect. All right, good. And then, yeah, Suzanne, what I'm going to do is come back to that first question because I want to look up Interos gel. All right, it sounds like Lori is scheduling somebody. This other question. This is from Mrs. Snyder. Hi, Drew. I'm getting skeptical. I'm not even going to say this guy's name, but he's a very popular health influencer. I've been skeptical of this person and all of his deals in quotation marks. I've been a fan of his pre, pro, and postbiotic product, but lately his marketing and some of the things he promises with the products he says he invented, again in quotations, seem inconsistent. I'll leave it at that. That's what it says here. Does Standard Process have a similar product? They do. They absolutely do. So first, let's make sure we're understanding probiotics. Probiotics are good bacteria inside of our body. We should have between a half a pound and 1 pound of good bacteria on our skin, on the outside of our skin at any point in time. We should also have about 2 pounds of good bacteria inside of our intestines. And if that doesn't amaze you, it should, because the weight of a bacteria is almost unfathomable. It is so light and small. So to have 2 pounds of bacteria in our gut means we have billions and billions and billions of these good bacteria inside of our body. So we want to have probiotics. Next thing I want you to understand is prebiotics. Prebiotics are what good bacteria eat. So, a very common problem with people who take probiotic products is that they take the probiotics and they don't fuel the probiotic enough to actually set up shop inside the body and actually take up residency inside of the gut. For most probiotics to survive in our body, we need to give them enough prebiotics that they can actually survive. You can get these from supplements. There's also a pretty good list of foods that'll help us with that. Some of my favorites from that list are going to be apples, asparagus, artichokes. That's a lot of A words all of a sudden. Beets help with this. Carrot roots are really good for this. Um, What else are we going to use to help that? Apricots will do that. A lot of A words all of a sudden. What's going on? Certain types of produce is the gist of it. That when we eat these on a regular basis, the way our body breaks them down, part of what it gets broken down into is prebiotic. So it's going to help us fuel those probiotics. Eating these foods in general is a really good idea. And I like to use products that have the pre and probiotics together. So I don't have to hope I ate enough of the prebiotic rich foods. I just know the prebiotics and the probiotics were delivered together. So Standard Process does have a product. They actually have two products. It's called Pro Symbiotic. Man, I wish we had a second camera right now. I can't tell you how excited Lori looks
I know what you want.
to throw these
Here we
at
go.
me. She loves throwing stuff hard at me. From Standard Process, it's called Pro Symbiotic. Pro Symbiotic on this side has been around for a long time now, and they just came out with the children's Pro Symbiotic. Both of them contain pre and probiotics. The children's one I'm especially excited about, and I actually started it myself, not just because I'm a child at heart, uh, but because it also has a good dose of fiber in it. It comes in these convenient little packs and mixes up really, really easily. It's not flavored, and I like that because it makes it easier to hide it inside of stuff. So the reason that they call this Pro Symbiotic the synergy part of it is because it contains the prebiotics alongside the probiotics. So when we're using these two, we're making sure that the good bacteria we're putting into our body are also being set up for residency so that they can actually take hold. It's called colonizing sometimes. They can set up and they can start to live there, and good bacteria, just like bad bacteria, will reproduce and the levels will go up if you provide it the environment and the food it needs to actually do so. There is a strain of bacteria, if I'm not mistaken, in here called Boulardii. Yeah, good. It's in that one. Is it in this one? Indeed, it is. Good. I want to talk about that for a minute. It's in the family of bacteria that's called Saccharomyces. Okay. Discovered by a gentleman whose name was Boulard. And what he found was there was a type of infection that was common in Indonesia. But people who ate certain fruits on a regular basis, lychee fruit being one of them, did not have this issue with the infection. So he started to study that fruit, and what he found was it was a natural source of prebiotics and a source of this bacteria that he named Boulardii. Boulardii does not colonize inside your body. It is incredible for helping your immune system function. It helps your body get rid of waste in your bowel movements. It is also one of the types of probiotic that you need to ingest on a regular basis to keep the levels up in your body. When people take probiotics, they often assume, oh, I take a probiotic, that means there's all this good bacteria in my body. Not every type of probiotic stays in your body. It's part of the reason so often our clients are on some kind of probiotic or prosymbiotic product because we know just because you took it a handful of times doesn't mean it stayed in there. Yeah. Sorry, we have butts and seats. I didn't thank the butts and seats for being here. Butts and seats have questions.
I thought Saccharomyces boulardii was a yeast and not a bacteria.
Sorry, it is technically a yeast. Still going to help with the waste management, all that good stuff. Yeah.
And I've heard it's good if you have to take antibiotics to prevent overgrowth of bad bacteria.
Absolutely. So the Boulardii after antibiotics, during is tricky. It's probably not going to get, I could see that. I could see it during because it's not going to get too messed up by continuing.
Yeast will survive. It's antibiotics don't kill yeast.
Yeah, not at a, antibiotics do not kill yeast at a high level. They'll mess with them a little bit. So that's a good point. The, yeah, the yeast will help with the waste processing just the same, including the waste that comes from killing off bacteria. When that stuff starts to die off, whether it's good bacteria or bad bacteria, there's waste product that comes with that. And something like the Saccharomyces boulardii will help with removing that stuff. Yeah. Cool. That was a good question from Mrs. Snyder. And Two Boots, I take it the phone call was like a scheduling thing?
It was, yes, it was a scheduling thing. So Zara's got a question here
Oh,
on
cool.
YouTube.
Yeah.
A toddler with consistent bad breath despite good oral hygiene.
Yes. Bad breath despite good oral hygiene. What would the flip of that be? Oral hygiene is actually a pretty common thing at all ages, whether it's a toddler, an adult, a geriatric. Let's talk about it. Let's use what feels right for this. Let's go with orange. Okay, so bad breath. All right, so the first thing we want to cross off is clean your mouth. And it sounds like we're doing some of that. When I say clean your mouth, I mean brush, floss, scrape your tongue. If you have a water pick, that's a good thing. If you even swish your mouth with water, that can be a good thing also. When the cleaning aspect is handled, then what we want to look at is stomach acid potency. One of the things I've seen again and again is that this food we're eating falls into our stomach, and the process of breaking it down with the stomach acid should take less than an hour. So the food should just be ripped to shreds by the stomach acid, broken down, and ready to move on to the next part of processing. And if the stomach acid is weak, the food will sit in there too long. It'll often start to off gas as well. And that stuff doesn't smell good. And that can leak up and it'll come out of the mouth. This really commonly happens with people who aren't ill, but all the time they do the the throat clearing. It's often dads get accused of it a lot of the time. Just for the record, not all dads do that. Okay. The throat clearing can be an indication that the stomach acid is nowhere near potent enough and that food isn't breaking down the right way and the vapors that are sneaking back up.
Mm.
Next thing is the valve at the top of the stomach. Can be weak. So even if our stomach acid is weak, hopefully the valve that sits at the top of the stomach would seal up nice and tight, and then that stuff couldn't leak out anyways and mess with the breath. We could have either one of these things, or we could have both of these things happening at the same time. Let's talk about things I like to do to help it. First thing for the stomach acid potency is going to be a supplement by standard process called Zypan. Zypan supports stomach acid potency. It also has some nutrient in it that helps the step after the stomach releases the food. I bring that up because the stomach not breaking down the food the right way and the food sitting in there too long can be because of the lack of potency. It can also be because the next step in the digestive process is dysfunctional. So what's nice about Zypan is we're checking both of those boxes off. For a toddler, I would expect a half tablet with each meal. Really shouldn't take a lot. Times we back off of Zypan, if somebody takes it, they feel like they have heartburn. Somebody takes it and they feel heat in their stomach that doesn't go away after about 10 or 15 minutes. So pay attention to the toddler. Make sure they're doing well. The valve at the top of the stomach weakness, this is a two-part thing. The mineral manganese is a really big deal for this. I like a product that's called Trace Minerals B12. It's from Standard Process. It is a big dose of the mineral manganese inside of there from food sources, which is beautiful because so many of our modern foods are deficient in manganese. And aside from helping the valves in our digestive tract, manganese is also really important for bone density and joint health. big deal stuff here. So if the valve at the top of the stomach is weak because of a manganese deficiency, we really want to address this as early on in life as possible so we don't see any of those joint or bone density issues getting spurred on early in life. And the second thing is Gastrex by Standard Process. Gastrex is really good for the entire digestive tract. It has a lot of nutrient in it for those valves to make sure that they can slide and move really easily. Also helps reduce a little bit of the inflammation inside of those parts of the body. So if the valve can't close because it's too puffed up and inflamed, Gastrex has nutrients that support a reduction in inflammation of those valves so they can close up nice and tight. For a toddler, trace minerals B12 would probably be like a half tablet a day. Like I said, it's got a big dose of that manganese. And the Gastrex, I would do one per meal. It's really good for the entire digestive tract. Nothing wrong with combining all three of these. There's absolutely a synergy to them. Yeah, that could be a really good thing. Yeah.
Doesn't trace minerals have the warning about iron in kids?
Yes, trace minerals B12 is also a natural source of iron. So they want to make sure that you aren't giving too much to a kiddo because kiddos are more likely to get iron poisoning. At a half tab a day, that's not going to happen. Yeah. Good question. Looking out for the kiddos, man. I like
They're
it.
not a client of yours and they see that, they might get scared.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The Immuplex from Standard Process, the Ferrofood, the GI Adsorb, a bunch of the iron-containing supplements from Standard Process, Zinc Complex, have a safety cap on the top because those are the ones that are most likely to end up with iron toxicity. Did Zara follow up?
Not with that one. We've got
Okay.
another question though.
Okay. Zara, make sure that I answered your question. Let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, I'll scoot this off the board and then we'll take the next question.
Okay.
Saved it. Good catch. Thank you. Got the reflexes of a cat and the speed of a mongoose. Name that movie and win a prize. I'll leave that up to the chat. I'm not going to repeat myself. All right, next question.
All right. This comes from Allison.
Okay.
Allison says, I take digestive enzymes, Colacol by Standard Process, due to no gallbladder, and it works great.
Okay.
Does this also help me absorb nutrients from my food?
Really good question, Allison. I need a clarification real quick. You take enzymes and Colacol?
I take digestive enzymes, Colacol.
Because Colacol is a
Isn't-
combination of bile salts and the Collinsonia root that Two Boots mentioned earlier.
Mm.
It is not a source of enzymes. So I'm not trying to nitpick you. I just really want to understand you since I don't know you. Let's talk about Colacol while you get back to me, Allison. Let me know if you are taking enzymes with Colacol or just Colacol.
Okay.
And then, Laura, you can interrupt me at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Colacol from Standard Process, sometimes lovingly said as Chalacal. It's not Chalacal. It's Colacol. But it's pretty cute when clients say that.
Yeah.
I get
We
a
know
kick
what
for
they
that.
mean.
I know
We've
exactly
learned.
what you mean. You can call it Congaplex or Conjaplex. You can call it zinc chelate or zinc chelate. We know what you mean.
And she just responded, just the Colacol.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Colacol. So like I just said, it's a combination of bile salts and the Collinsonia root. You might not know Collinsonia root by that name. It is often or also known as stone root. The reason for that is the root of this plant is hard like stone. When Standard Process makes this, they have to do special things with their equipment setup to make sure they can even process it. Because this is not like a radish or a beet or a carrot. This is not like kelp or alfalfa. This is much, much harder. It also usually only grows wild, and Standard Process has been spending a couple of years figuring out how they can grow it on their farm and they can keep it regenerating, which is really cool because then we're not worried about sourcing it out in the wild.
Yeah. Cool.
Bile salts. What they do for us is that supports bile formation. Bile is a product that our liver makes. We store it inside of our gallbladder. Your gallbladder sits right under your rib cage on the right side of your rib cage. And then whenever our taste buds signal that we have had fat, the bile in the gallbladder gets released into the digestive tract to help the breakdown of that fat. So bile supports fat digestion. Part of the reason that's so important is digested fats, or fats digested, provide fat-soluble vitamins and they aid mineral absorption. So especially with somebody who doesn't have a gallbladder, that means that the liver is going to continue to make bile, but some of that bile is going to leak out into the digestive tract kind of all day. It can be a little bit irritating to the digestive tract. That's a separate conversation. But also it means that on a moment's notice, when we taste those fat cells, the body might not be capable of releasing enough bile all at once because its little storage unit, the gallbladder, isn't there to give an adequate dose. So taking something like Colacol helps acute formation of bile, like with that meal, that fat-containing meal. So the fat can break down, and inside of the fat, there are certain types of vitamins that only exist in the presence of fat. Vitamin A, D, E, F, and K. Vitamin F is a real vitamin, by the way. It wasn't a typo. What's a typo when you're talking? Is there a term for that? There should be a term for that. Get on that. When you break down the fat, you also support the way the body absorbs minerals. So to answer your question, absolutely. When you take Colacol, you're supporting your body in getting as much nutrient as possible out of your food. Allison, let me know if I answered your question, and thank you.
Yeah, I like this, Allison. She had a comment when you mentioned colinsomnia root again.
Yeah?
She goes, I've used that by standard process and it worked excellent. And then parentheses, hemorrhoids. Shh. I'm like,
Cat's already out of the bag, even in this live stream, Allison. We've been talking about bottoms since the start. It took us about 5 minutes to start talking about bottoms.
She wants to know, when is the best time to take the Colacol, after my meal or during?
During, because when that food is leaving your stomach, I want the bile formation support to show up at the same time as the food. I don't want the food to be in transit and then the Colacol's trying to catch up. I want them showing up same time. Really good question.
Mm-hmm.
So many people have hemorrhoids, they just aren't willing to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
It's way more common than we hear about because most people don't want to talk about their bottoms to other people.
Slip of the tongue.
Oh, there's got to be a slicker.
Oh,
a taco?
lapsus lingua. Misspoke, speech error, tongue slip.
I'm going to keep workshopping
We're going to come up with our own word, I think.
Yep.
That's what I think.
I feel like it might be a taco, Talko, instead of a typo.
Oh, a taco?
I just don't want anybody to think that I'm blaspheming tacos because tacos are delicious. All right, other questions rolling in.
Yes, we've got one here from back to Zara has another question. Tiny bumps on the back of
the upper arm
of arms and legs in a 3-year-old.
We're talking about like the tricep.
What can that be from in your experience?
Color everybody is pink.
Tiny bumps on the back of arms and legs in a 3-year-old.
Bumpy arms and legs. All right. Anecdotal warning. Just so we're clear, an anecdote is something that is not proven with the scientific method. It is storytelling. For the most part, I try to avoid anecdotal evidence because anybody can tell you any tale about somebody that you've never met, nor will you ever meet them, and the person could just be fabricating things. So I'm about to get anecdotal, so I'm going to call it out. Because for the most part, when I talk about things, it's from research or from studies, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Anecdotally speaking about bumpy arms and legs, I have seen that a B6 deficiency. Two Boots, did I spell that right?
Yes.
Okay. Correlates with that. I've seen that in people of all ages. One of the things I want to point out, for vitamin B6 to absorb in our body, it requires strong stomach acid.
Mm.
So it's interesting that Zara was mentioning about the bad
Bad
breath thing
breath.
before, and that might have been the stomach acid thing. And if we're talking about the same, if this is involving the toddler, if this question is, we might see some correlation here.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's anecdotal, because believe it or not, there's not a huge amount of money in the research and development of drugs to handle a bumpy back of your arm and leg. That might shock you. It shouldn't. Okay. It's a catch-22 because B6 is one of the nutrients required for ideal production of stomach acid. And if your stomach acid isn't strong enough, you have trouble digesting B6. Do you see how that's a real nasty loop? So what we do is we just kind of cut out the middleman, and typically we would use some Zypan. I would start there because I want to see the stomach acid have a chance at digesting the B6 that's naturally occurring in the diet before we would talk about adding a B6 containing supplement. So we'd start with Zypan. If we do Zypan, let's say for 3 to 6 weeks, I would expect to see that the bumpiness on the back of the arms and legs improves. And if it doesn't, that is when I would want to add Cataplex B2. Which is a whole food blend of B vitamins, but it emphasizes soothing to calming B vitamins, of which B6 is absolutely one of them. I would only add the Cataplex B2 with a person of any age, including a toddler, Zara, after giving the Zypan adequate time to improve the stomach acid and support the digestion of the B6. I've had a number of clients over the years with the bumpy backs of the upper arm and the legs, and we do some digestive support like Zypan, and it gets better on its own. I wish I had some kind of study or some kind of evidence beyond anecdotal for you, but this is what I would do.
You ever chewed B2?
I have. Cataplex B2 is sour. It's bitter.
Interesting.
There's, for the record though, there's way worse supplements to chew than Cataplex B2.
Oh yeah.
What's the one that you're thinking of?
Antronex.
Antronex, that's a different kind of bitter.
Pretty nasty, too.
Mintran?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can deal with Mintran. It tastes like seafood, like tastes like sushi to me.
Uh-huh.
It's chalky, but I feel like the kelp flavor comes through, and that reminds me of sushi, which is a positive association. So I think it helps me get through that. Tongkat Ali, the herb Tongkat Ali, is hands down the worst tasting thing I've ever chewed in my entire existence. Big shout out to my guy Cody over at Standard Process. Bless his heart. Years ago, Cody goes, "Hey Drew, I got some Tongkat Ali. That's the we were on the topic of like chewing things that taste awful." Antronex came up. He goes, "Tongkat Ali is the worst ever. Have you ever chewed some Tongkat Ali?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And he goes, "I got some in the car." And I said, "I'm game for it." So he goes out to his car. He brings it back into the office. He pours out 2 pills in his hand, and I take them and I pop them and I start chewing them because I'm curious. And he goes, "Oh, we're chewing 2?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what?" And he's like, "There was going to be one for each of us." And I was like, "In for a penny, in for a pound. Here we go." 2 chomps of that thing, and I was like, "This is the worst tasting thing I've ever." I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I finished it. I didn't spit them out. Just what was that, like 6 months ago? You were here that night. I was taking my supplements. I chew a lot of my supplements from Standard Process. I forgot that I was on Tongkat Ali. Oh man, it's still awful. All these years later, Tongkat Ali is still the worst tasting. Coleus is a really, that's a really strong herb also. Golden seal, a lot of people don't like the way golden seal tastes. Echinacea makes you salivate like crazy. People don't like that feeling. I like it. I think it tingles. I don't mind the salivation. A lot of people do not like echinacea for the effect. Yeah. What else we got, Two Boots?
Nothing else rolling in.
Okay. The rules around here are when we run out of questions, we call it a night. What time is it even?
It is just about 7:45,
Right on.
7:46. Yeah, so
It's a good sesh.
good.
Shout out to Allison and Zara, Mrs. Snyder, Suzanne. I gotta look up that Interos gel for Suzanne, so we're gonna come back to that.
Sure.
And everybody who watches this stuff and participates in it, it is so heartwarming for us to see the statistics on our YouTube channel of average views per day or per month just steadily climb with subscribership going up. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm going to grab Levi. That's the name of this guitar, this beautiful beast of a guitar. Indy's here today also. I used her for some promo videos recently, and I was just thinking to myself, I don't want Levi to feel left out. I'm going to use my handy dandy looper pedal to record those chords that I played during the introduction, and then solo over the top of them. Beautiful. We'll see you next week.